प्रणाम माता जी। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण।
दंडवत प्रणाम ऑल माता जी।
हरे कृष्णा। दंडवत प्रणाम माता जी, प्रभु जी।
हरि बोल।
हरे कृष्णा। दंडवत प्रणाम चारू प्रभु जी। दंडवत प्रणाम टू ऑल डिवोटी।
हरे कृष्णा माता जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम।
Prabhuji, today is which this thing we are starting?
Yeah,
Madhurya Kadambini, right?
7:30 today.
No, Madhurya Kadambini, right?
प्रभु जी लेसन नंबर 8, लेसन नंबर 8 to 10।
Madhurya Kadambini lesson 8, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I will update. I have.
So we can start with the kirtan.
हरे कृष्णा। ओके प्रभु जी। दंडवत प्रणाम।
दंडवत प्रणाम।
दंडवत प्रणाम टू ऑल डिवोटी। वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितनं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय हो। हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय हो। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिने इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतुषे नमः। नमो ब्राह्मण देवाय गो ब्राह्मण हिताय च जगद्विताय कृष्णाय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय हो। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरा वनचारी यमुनातीरा वनचारी यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय राधा गोविंद राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय Today I am going to do Keno Hare Krishna Naam Hari Na Bole by Bhakti Vinodha Thakur. Bhakti Vinodha Thakur की जय हो. Keno Hare Krishna Naam Hari Bole Mano Pran Kandena Keno Hare Krishna Naam Hari Bole Mano Pran Kandena Keno Hare Krishna Naam Hari Bole Mano Pran Kandena पाखी न जानी कौन अपराधे पाखी न जानी कौन अपराधे मुखे हरे कृष्ण नाम बोलो ना हरे कृष्ण नाम बोलो ना हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना बनेर पाखिरे धरे रखलाम हृदय मंदिरे बनेर पाखिरे धरे रखलाम हृदय मंदिरे मधुमक्खाए हरि नाम पाखिरे शिखाइले शिखे पाखिरे शिखाइले शिखे केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना पाखी सकल नाम बोलते पारो पाखी सकल नाम बोलते पारो केनो हरे कृष्ण नाम बोलो ना केनो हरे कृष्ण नाम बोलो ना केनो हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना बोले हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना चलो पाखी रूपे देशे जाई चलो पाखी रूपे देशे जाई जे देश ते मने मानुष आशा जाओ या नाही आशा जाओ या नाही केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना आखिरे तोर मरण काले ते आखिरे तोर मरण काले ते चार विवाह डोलते ओरे चार जनी ते कांधे कोरे लोए जाबे स्मशान घाटे ते लोए जाबे स्मशान घाटे ते केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना ओरे ओ तोर मुखे अगुण जीवे तुले ओरे ओ तोर मुखे अगुण जीवे तुले कि करो बिताई बोलो ना कि करो बिताई बोलो ना केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना केनु हरे कृष्ण नाम हरि बोले मनो प्राण कांदेना। जय भक्ति विनोदा ठाकुर की जय हो। Translation: Oh, why does my heart not weep from chanting the holy name Hare Krishna? The bird of my heart does not know what past sinful activities it has committed to cause this inability to chant Hare Krishna properly. O forest bird, I have kept something for you very carefully within the cottage of my heart, the holy name of Hari, which is overflowing with pure sweet honey. O bird, you could learn the chanting of this name if you were taught. A bird is easily able to speak all names. Why then does this bird of my heart refuse to chant Hare Krishna? Oh, why does my heart not weep from chanting the holy name Hare Krishna? Oh bird, come, let us go to the spiritual world, the land of true and everlasting beauty. It is the place where the imaginary man of my mind will never again come on the revolving cycle of birth and death. O bird, at the time of death, your body will simply be placed upon a funeral stretcher, lifted on the shoulder of 4 persons, and carried to the cremation ground. Alas, the cremation fire will enter your mouth and then totally consume your tongue. There will be nothing you can do to save yourself, for at that time it is too late. You will be unable to speak anymore. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chant and be happy. Hare Krishna. Dhanush Pranam Prabhuji was so wonderful seva. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. I welcome all the devotees to this session. You may be thinking why Charu Prabhuji has not joined and I am taking this class. I must inform you that because of an angina, that is pain in the chest, Charu Prabhuji was admitted in the hospital yesterday, and angiography has been done. There is nothing to worry. It is not a heart attack, but small little blocks for which even angioplasty is not required. And he will be discharged from the hospital in next 3-4 hours time. And I have requested him to take rest only. The doctor has also advised him to take rest. He is perfectly all right. Please don't worry. Now we'll start with the today's class, that is starting with Madhurya Kadambini. Earlier we had finished till lesson 7. And today we'll start with lesson 8. This weekend 8, 9, 10. And thereafter also 11 to 18 I will be taking. That means from 8 to 18 I will be covering all these lessons. Please remember that these are very, very important lessons to understand what actually bhakti is. That's why we a little more attentive. So we'll start with the invocation prayers, starting from Guru Pranam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavancha Sri Rupam Sakrajatam Sargana Raghunathan Vitam Tamta Jivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Swagana Lalita Sri Visakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisavanuste Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhya Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhya Vaishnavebhya Namo Namah Panchatatmatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Surupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyan Namami Bhakta Saktikam जेतां सुरतो पंगुर्मम मंदमतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्बुज राधा मदन दिव्याद वृंदारण्य कल्पतरु श्रीमद रत्नाकर सिंहासन स्थितौ श्रीमद राधा श्रील गोविंद देवौ पृष्ठालिपि सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवटतटस्थित दर्शन वेणु स्वनैर्गोपीर गोपीनाथ श्रियस्तुनः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद. Now we will offer our obeisances to the six Goswamis of Vrindavan and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Ghoratrise Namah. O most magnificent incarnation, your Krishna himself appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Krishna Varnam Tisa Krishnam Sangopangastra Parsadam Yagya Sankirtana Praye Rejayanti Sumedasa. In the age of Kali, intelligent people perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Nana Shastra Vicharana Kainipunam Shadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarinam Tribhavana Matmya Saranya Karao Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Vajanam Anandena Mattalikau Nam Banderu Patanatana Ragujugo Sri Jiva Gopalakau. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the divine couple Sri Radha and Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtapraya Sobhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. With this, let us start with today's class, that is lesson 8. But before I start with lesson 8, we will have the synopsis of lesson 7, which was covered some time back.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Yes, it was very sweet Kirtan Seva done by Raksha Mataji. And
Mataji,
our
little
prayer,
more sound.
and
Little more sound.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Yeah, it is better now.
Okay. So our heartfelt prayers, Prabhuji, for speedy recovery of His Grace Charuchandra Prabhuji. And yes, we are going through Sri Madhurya Kadambini. And up till now, we have studied first shower. And first shower, it included lessons 2 to 7, which was elaborating on preeminence of bhakti. So the first shower included the lessons 2 to 7 with the theme that Mangalacharan were offered so as to get the divine blessings. Lesson 3, it was including Bhakti Devi is self-manifesting. Lesson 4 was on Bhagwan's mercy potency is entrusted to the devotee. Lesson 5, it was that the futility of any practice devoid of bhakti. Lesson 6 was the superiority of bhakti over moksha and jnana nourished by bhakti. Lesson 7 was elaborated about bhakti begets bhakti. So today we'll see the synopsis of lesson 7, that is bhakti begets bhakti. So which included the theme that jnana is nourished by the mercy of bhakti. Bhakti begets from bhakti, that is bhakti arises from bhakti itself, and one with mature intelligence is inclined towards bhakti. So yes, lesson 7, which includes the information about bhakti arises from bhakti. It explains about that. There are several transformational stages in bhakti, that is sadhana, bhava, and prema bhakti, and which further culminates into the perfectional stage, that is mahabhav. So Bhakti Devi is omnipresent, all controlling, all nourishing, all attractive, supremely independent, and self-manifesting. So without bhakti, the sadhus, their mercy cannot arise. So it is the bhakti in the practice of karma, gyan, or yoga, the means, that is sadhana, and the sadhya, they do differ from each other. Okay. So karmi sadhana, so it includes about yajna and yag, and the one has the goal also as to attain heavenly planets. Jnani sadhana, so it takes the effort on so as to withdraw the mind and sense objects, and the goal, the major goal is attaining Brahma Sayuja Mukti. Sadhana of the yogi is to practice yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, etc. And the goal is Paramatma Sayuja Mukti. So by contrast, sadhana, bhava, and prema bhakti are comparative, but increasing order of the same sadhana, and the goals of each sadhana is to incrementally reach the highest perfectional stage of prema. So prema bhakti is when love for Krishna is fully mature, gets ripened, and that is the essence of bhakti tattva. So prem matures through the stages, that is sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anurag, and which finally reaches to mahabhav. And mahabhav stage we do find in case of the gopis headed by Srimati Radharani. So sadhana, bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti are the three transformational types of uttama bhakti. So those are elaborated. So it has been said that one with mature intelligence is inclined towards bhakti. The success of human life lies only in taking up Krishna consciousness, which is not possible for those in other species of life. So humans, ours to devotional service, are nothing but human-like animals, busily engaged in sense gratification. So it is that Bhakti Devi is so important, Bhakti is so important, and those who are averse to Hari Bhajan and whose ears have never heard the name of Bhagwan are like dogs that bark uselessly. So it has been explained. So such person, despite being glorified by others who are also averse to Hari Bhajan, should be understood to be like animals. So here, what message it has to be taken? That one should be engaged in Hari Bhajan, one should not be densely absorbed in sense gratification, and Bhakti Devi should blossom in the life of a devotee. So one has to take home this particular message, that one should not be after sense gratification. So today His Grace Sharat Prabhuji will be dealing with lesson 8 of Sri Madhurya Kadambini, lesson 8, 9, and 10. So they will be explaining the stages of devotional service, that is Shraddha, Sadhusang, and Bhajan Kriya. So the wine creeper of this Bhakti Devi, so Prabhuji will be elaborating, which will be fruitful so as to reach the Bhakti stage, Prema Bhakti stage, Mahabhav stage. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Over to you, Shri Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. With this, let us get into lesson 8. Now this lesson 8, 9 and 10, 8 today, tomorrow morning in India, the lesson 9, and next day morning, that is lesson 10. Now please see this slide. I'll not go into the details. Here it gives what all aspects of these lessons 8, 9 and 10 we'll be covering. Lesson 8 will be covering the text 2 and 3. In lesson 9 we'll be covering 4 and 5. And lesson 10 will be covering the text 6 to 11. This is how we are going to cover these 3 things on these 3 lessons. This is very, very important, please remember. And therefore, please be a little more attentive. As we know, what is the prerequisite of bhakti? That is the pure bhakti. It is anya vilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu bhakti uttama. This is given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. And what is the meaning? The first class devotional service. When it develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. No material desires should be there. That means the spiritual desires may be there. Then knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy and fruitive action, that is jnana and karma, the devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. All these things we have seen in great detail earlier. And here in the second shower of nectar, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is discussing a sequential development of Shraddha Sadhana Bhakti. We'll see that in very great detail. Here first, what is happening, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is describing the appearance of the devotional creeper in the heart of the devotee as its qualities and nature. Now, this is the creeper, that is the bhakti creeper, and how it starts from Adau Shraddha. Actually, this complete book, Madhurya Kadambini, it starts from this verse, Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Bhajan Kriya Anathani Brati, like this, till Prema. Now, this diagram will be referring again and again and many times. But here you may be asking one thing, you may have one question. We are covering the text 2 and 3 onwards in these lectures 8, 9 and 10. What about text 1? Why we are not covering? Actually, in text 1, what is happening? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said that dualism and monoism, Dvaita and Advaita, they have not been discussed here. And he says that this is because I have discussed this thing in my book, Aishwarya Kadambini. There is a book, Aishwarya Kadambini, but Aishwarya Kadambini could not be located at this point of time. But his disciple has written a book known as Aishwarya Kadambini, and there also, that is Baladev Vidyabhusana, he has written a book known as Aishwarya Kadambini, but there also this aspect has not been discussed. That means Aishwarya Kadambini, written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and by Baladev Vidyabhusana, they cover different things. So this is what is discussed in the first verse. Let us see the next slide. Now here we'll be covering the text 2 and text 3. Under text 2, we'll be covering the intrinsic nature of sadhana bhakti and uttama bhakti. What is sadhana bhakti and uttama bhakti, and what is the nature of these? Then the second thing we'll be discussing when a devotee progresses on this path, then the first two leaves of the vine of bhakti, that is Klesagni and Subhada, they sprout in the heart of the devotee, that is in that creeper. And what does that mean? That we'll see in great detail. Then the third thing we'll see Raga Bhakti and Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. What is the difference and how they are done? In text 3, we'll see the 5 types of klesa or misery which we come through. Then we'll also see the 4 stages of sin, that is the papa. And third thing, we will see the auspicious qualities bestowed by bhakti. Now here, please remember that bhakti we are talking of is sadhana bhakti only. And sadhana bhakti appears in the field of the senses, that is body, mind and words. That means sadhana bhakti is practiced by the body, mind and words of the devotee. And such bhakti is untainted by karma and jnana, jnana karma the anabritam that we saw. And moreover, the intrinsic nature of such bhakti is like a kalpa bruksha, wish fulfilling vine, because it bestows all results. Everything, even if the devotee does not want, still then it provides anything and everything. That means a devotee is not devoid of anything else. That means if you somebody may ask, if we keep on doing this sadhana bhakti, that means we keep on chanting the name of the Lord 24 hours in a day, who is going to look after our family? Who is going to look after our kingdom, all the things we have? That answer is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you remember, Srivas Pandita, he was not doing anything else other than singing the name of the Lord. And the Lord was providing everything to him, not only to him, to his servants. Even he has said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, even a dog which is with him, he is also as dear to him as Srivas Pandita. So this is what is the nature of the Lord. If you do not forget him, he will not forget you. Now, what is happening despite all this, the person, that is the devotee who takes shelter of this wish fulfilling vine of bhakti, he is a great fortunate person whose sole vow is to exclusively drink the nectar of bhakti rasa, and he is abandoning the hankering of all kinds of rewards except service to the Supreme Lord. And such a fortunate soul is likened to a bumblebee, because he vows to maintain his life by drinking honey from this wine and from nowhere else. And regarding this wine, now we'll see in a very great detail. Now please remember that this fundamental life force of this wine, that is the Bhaktilata, is the continual rendering of service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna in a manner which is favorable to his well-being and full of affection for him. Not like Bhutana, not like Sisupala or any other demon. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, we'll see this in great detail. Now, the intrinsic nature of sadhana bhakti and uttama bhakti. Here we'll see the Bhaktilata Vija of the devotional creeper how it grows in the devotee's heart. Now, here in this book, that is the Madhurya Kadambini, in the first shower of nectar, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has established through various types of logic, arguments, and scriptural evidence the independent and self-manifesting nature of bhakti. Bhakti is not dependent on anything else. It is self-manifesting. Now, in this second shower of nectar, he is discussing the sequential development of sadhana bhakti, how it develops in the heart of a devotee, and how the devotee proceeds toward the end, that is the prema bhakti. First, he describes the appearance of the devotional creeper, that is the bhakti lata, in the heart of the sadhaka or the practitioner or the devotee, as well as the various qualities and the nature. Now, devotion that is completely devoid of any desire and hankering other than to serve Krishna, and which is untainted by any type of karma or jnana, is called Suddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. And this is what is our aim. And the nature of Suddha Bhakti has been compared to a wish-fulfilling wine, so that it can be better understood. Just as a vine grows in fertile soil, the wish-fulfilling wine of bhakti appears only in a fertile heart, and not in a heart which is full of stones, which is very hard. And this heart of the devotee should be devoid of selfish desires. He should be niskama. Then one may ask, since a vine can grow only from a seed, what is the seed of the vine of devotion? And in his teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given the instructions in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that very famous verse there you would be remembering, Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Vija Mali Hoye Kare Sahi Vija Aropana Sravana Kirtana Jale Karaye Sechana. Now, a jiva who is averse to Krishna, who does not like Krishna, who is inimical to Krishna, he roams around throughout the universe in 84 lakh life forms due to the result of his own activities. But when the good fortune which is generated by the causeless mercy of the devotees, the exalted personalities, then by the mercy of Sri Guru and Krishna, he obtains the seed of creeper of devotion. And the devotee thereafter becomes like a gardener, and he waters that seed with Sravana and Kirtana. Now we are saying that seed has to be sown in a fertile soil, but you have to give water also. And what is that water? Water is Sravan Kirtana only, and nothing else. Therefore, this hearing and chanting, they are most important on the path of devotional service. We have to always get involved in this. That's why it is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam also. Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Svaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Bandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. Hearing is the first thing and the most important thing one can do, for which nothing is required, only your eyes and your ears and your mind, they are required. And here what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying? He is saying that this seed of wine of devotion, but what exactly it is, he has not described it explicitly, but it is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto. There it is said that the jiva has been wandering in this cycle of birth and death since time immemorial. Like we all devotees also, we are in this the birth of Jiva from time immemorial. We cannot say from which time. And when the moment of his release from this cycle approaches, he obtains the association of saintly devotees. That means in this life, at least we have got the association of saintly devotees. That's why we are discussing this bhakti and the many other things here in these classes. And this is a very, very great thing. And from now onwards, what will happen? We'll be able to fix our intelligence on the lotus feet of the Lord with great determination, and we'll be firmly attached to the Supreme Lord and understand that He is the only shelter. He is the supreme goal for saintly persons and the origin of all creation, both material and spiritual. There is nothing which has not been created by the Supreme Lord, that is Krishna. And in Laghu Vaishnava Tosani, commentary on the above verse, Jiva Goswami, that is, I refer to the verse in 10th canto, 51st chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. In Laghu Bhagavat Tosani, Jiva Goswami is saying that in saintly company, an intellect awakens that is likened to the sprout of rati. That is, by the causeless mercy of these devotees, exalted devotees, sadhu sangha, an intelligence is awakened in the heart of the devotee that gives rise to Krishna Seva Vasana. That is the desire to perform Bhagavat Bhajana, that is service to Lord Krishna. This Vasana or desire is coming in the devotees because of sadhu sangha only. And the desire is called the seed of wish fulfilling wine of devotion. This is very important. In other words, the inclination to serve Sri Bhagavan, that is Lord Krishna, is the seed of this wine. And when this seed has been watered in the field of the devotee's senses through the process of Sravana and Kirtana, that the devotional creeper sprouts, and the favorable execution of service to Krishna is the root of the wish fulfilling tree. Now, in other words, the very life of bhakti is to give happiness and satisfaction to whom? To Krishna only. That is by rendering affectionate service to him in a way that is favorable for his well-being and by no other process. And in the Sandarbha classes, we have learned in Priti Sandarbha, written by Jiva Goswami, that the symptoms of loving devotion to the Lord, Supreme Lord, it is described by Jiva Goswami, that is to render service to the object of love, that is Sri Krishna, in a manner which is favorable to his well-being and from which he derives happiness. And that is the life and soul of loving devotion or bhakti. And this bhakti issues forth moods that awaken a desire to attain him. And that desire in turn leads to realization of him, that is the Vishaya. Vishaya is Krishna. And an extraordinary understanding of Krishna arises in the heart of the devotee, which is characterized by inconceivable joy in the heart of the devotee. And the purport of Suddha Bhakti gives rise to Prema, and Prema has some features. What are the features? The first one is that thing which brings Lord Krishna, who is the object of bhakti, what brings satisfaction or pleasure in the life and soul of bhakti. Now, in the heart of the devotee, there are no desires other than the desire to serve or to provide happiness to Krishna. Now, here a question may arise, why a devotee has a desire to attain Krishna? And for the response to this, we proceed to the second feature of this bhakti. Now, what is the second feature? Now, the desire that manifests within the devotee's heart to attain Krishna is due only because of his wish to give happiness to Krishna by serving him. And the devotee never cherishes the desire to attain Krishna to experience personal happiness. Now, what is the proof? The proof is the gopis of Vrindavana. They did everything to give satisfaction to Krishna. They did not want anything for them, anything, even happiness for them. And that is the reason, even when Krishna left, they were in the highest bliss. But however, here, a practitioner, if he were to completely devoid of personal desire, then he would therefore be incapable of striving for his own happiness. Now, in that case, the inherent purpose or the value of bhakti is to bestow the ultimate goal of life. That is, it would cease to interest him, since pure joy that is derived from loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord is regarded as the supreme attainment. We thus proceed to the third feature of this. Now, the third feature is, although a devotee never possesses the slightest desire for his own happiness, he definitely receives unparalleled joy from serving Krishna. And he is in ecstasy and he experiences his sweetness. That's how it is so important. And that is called love for the Supreme Lord or bhakti. Now, a bumblebee wishing to taste only a flower's sweet honey takes shelter of a vine. And similarly, the bumblebee, like the devotee is compared to a bumblebee who is devoid of all desires other than to serve Krishna. He takes shelter of this wish-fulfilling creeper of devotion in order to taste the honey, and that honey is Krishna Prema only. Now, according what is actually happening to the jivas, the conditioned beings. Now, according to their karma, all the living entities are wandering throughout this universe, and some of them are being elevated to upper planetary the systems. That is the planetary system of the demigods, or some are going down to the lower planetary systems. So some are going to the hell like this. This is dependent on their karma. And out of many millions of wandering entities, one who is very, very fortunate gets an opportunity for to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. And by the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of creeper of devotional service. And when a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. And if he waters the seed gradually by the process of Sravana and Kirtana, that is hearing and chanting, then the seed will begin to sprout. It will sprout, it will become a tree, and it will go high. How high? That we will also learn. It will go as high as the spiritual world. That means if you are destined for the Vaikuntha Loka or Golok Vrindavana, then this creeper will go up to that Golok Vrindavana only. Now, having conquered the entire circle of directions and being thus free from conflict, a man sits on a splendid throne, receiving praise from leaders who are once his equals. But when he enters the woman's chamber, where sex pleasure is found, he is led about like a pet animal. O Lord, a king who desires even greater power than already he has strictly performs his duties, carefully practicing austerity and foregoing sense enjoyment. But he whose urges are so rampant thinking I am independent and supreme cannot happen, cannot attain happiness. And when the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, then awakens in him devotion unto you, who are the goal of devotees and the Lord of all causes and their effects. And as you know, once the Lord is pleased with you, then the Lord, he runs after the devotees. The devotee does not have to run after the Lord. Because in Bhagavatam, the Lord has said, Aham Bhakta Paradhina. He is totally under the control of the devotee. That has to be understood. Let us go on to the next slide. Okay. Now we'll have a 5 minutes break and then Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, we'll go to the next
Hare
slide.
Krishna.
Okay. Now here what we are seeing the two leaves. Now this text to be the first two leaves of the vine of Bhakti, Klesagni and Subhada. We'll see in detail. Now what is happening by the touch, this Bhakti Lata, which is like a touchstone, it gradually dispels the iron-like quality of the senses, material tendencies, and it transforms the senses into a state which is comparable to purified gold. That is like a touchstone. It turns even a rusted iron into gold. This is also doing like this. Meanwhile, what is happening? Fresh sprout is also appearing. And when fully manifest, these sprouts are known as the two leaves of sadhana bhakti. Now, one is Klesagni and the other is Subhada. We'll see them in great detail. Now, here there is another question somebody may ask. Bhakti is a special function of the internal potency of Krishna, the Swarupa Shakti of Krishna, and it is endowed with the symptoms of supramaterial self-manifesting entity. Now, how can this spiritual thing manifest in the material senses of the devotee? Now, this answer is given by the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is saying that in the same way that contact with a touchstone transforms even rusty iron into gold, Bhakti, by her transcendental touch, gradually transforms even the material senses of the devotee into extremely pure and transcendental senses like gold. That is what it means. And after taking shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, Guru Padasraya, that is after receiving the initiation and the instructions by Guru Maharaj, the devotee engages in the practice of devotion, that is bhajana kriya. And gradually he does the activities of bhakti, and what happens, his material senses, they begin to go away, and the transcendental senses, they seem to appear. And as the devotee engages in the various limbs of bhakti like Shravan, Kirtana and all that, and please remember that this Shravan, Kirtan, they are not different from the Lord Krishna. They are like him only, and they are transcendental, and they are composed of eternality, knowledge and bliss, that is Satchidananda, and which is self-manifesting reality. It permeates in his material senses. That is, the spiritual things, they are coming into the material senses. And as a blazing fire, what happens, it hits up the iron. Bhakti also gradually renders the senses of the devotee transcendental. And for a devotee who has attained that stage, that is like the stage of Rati or Bhava, his internal senses or the mind intelligence, they become completely spiritualized. And upon reaching the stage of prema, his present physical body, which is composed of the 5 material elements, gross elements, that disappear, and his spiritual body manifests. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami has written Krishna Bhakti Suddha Panat Deha Daika Visatma. That is, for those who have forgotten their body and the various things which are related to it, that is, after drinking the nectar of Krishna Bhakti, this causes their physical form, which is composed of the 5 material elements, to gradually disappear, and it becomes composed of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had said says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the body of a Vaishnava is not material. We are talking of a pure devotee. But he says it is transcendental and full of transcendental bliss. That is Chidanandamaya. And when the devotee fully surrenders himself at the time of receiving Diksha, Sri Krishna accepts him as his own, and he makes him qualitatively one with him. There is no difference between him and the devotee. And what happens at that stage? It permeates the bhakta's body with transcendence and bliss. And this devotion or bhakti, with this, he worships Lord Krishna's lotus feet with his spiritual body. It may be looking like material body, but it is not spiritual body. In his commentary on these verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he writes that at the time of initiation, the devotee, after he has relinquished his material misconceptions and material experiences, he becomes equipped with transcendental knowledge of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. And upon obtaining his divine knowledge, he gains the qualification to serve the Supreme Lord Krishna with his spiritual body, that is the transcendental body. And once the devotee is released from the shelter of the material energy, that is Maya, and the misconception that he and that energy are separate from Krishna, Krishna makes him his own. Now the devotee then abandons all his false conceptions of being the enjoyer, that is in the mundane sense gratification purposes, with his senses of his soul. He gains realization of this, his eternal position as a servant of Krishna. He considers him as Krishna Nitya Dasa. And in his spiritual body of eternality, cognizance and bliss, the devotee has realization of the eternal object of service. And Lord Krishna, with Lord Krishna, and he attains qualification to engage in his service with his spiritual body. But even while the devotee internally renders transcendental service in his transcendental body, now the karmis, due to their faulty senses, their mundane intelligence, they presume that the devotee's activities are much like their own, and they attempt to attain material enjoyment. As a result of such an offense, they are deprived of the mercy of a transcendental spiritual master. And in this regard, Sanatana Goswami comments on the verses in his Briyat Bhagavatamrita. He says, he talks about this also. That means the body of a spiritual master is always transcendental. It may be, we may be seeing with our faulty eyes as the material, but it is not so. Now, what is happening meanwhile? The first 2 leaves on the creeper of devotion, when they are emerging, now the seed of the wish-fulfilling vine of devotion, which is the desire which is aroused because of mercy of the mercy of devotees, that is the exalted devotees, to bhajan kriya, bhajan of Sri Krishna. Now this creeper is planted in the field of the sadhaka's heart by the grace of Guru and Krishna. And that seed, when watered by the process of Shravan Kirtan, it quickly sprouts. And thereafter, the first two leaves they appear, and in these two leaves, the leaves are Kleshagni and Subhada. And what are these Kleshagni and Subhada? Let us see them in the next slide. Now, the Raga Bhakti and by the Sadhana Bhakti, we'll see them. Now, the upper side of the two unfurling leaves of Sadhana Bhakti is characterized by the gleaming softness of devotion. And devotion is impelled by what? Greed, lobha. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, the Lord says that for my devotees, I am their beloved and I am their soul, and like a son, I am the object of their affection, and I am their friend, I am their divine master, I am their well-wisher, I am their benefactor, and I am also their worshipable Lord. Now, according to this and various similar statements which are found in the various Shastras, when this realm of devotion is subtained by the purity of one's relationship with Krishna, it attains excellence, and this brings it under the jurisdiction of raga or ardent attachment, and whose excellent realm is represented by the leaves' smooth upper surface. Now, the underside of the two leaves is referred to in various statements in Srimad Bhagavatam also. Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Harishwara. Therefore, he is saying, therefore, O Parikshit Maharaj, those who wish to be fearless forever, they should perform worship of Sri Hari, the Lord of all entities. It is given in the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, this verse suggests that because such bhakti is characterized as being impelled by the demand and dictate of the scriptures, it is somewhat rough. And because such bhakti lacks a pure relationship with Lord, like that of a beloved, that is a son or like this, but this is inferior. Now, for this reason, the realm of devotion represented by the underside of this leaf is under the jurisdiction of a different regulation. Now, we'll study that. Now, in terms of capacity to dispel suffering, Kleshagni and Subhada, there is almost no difference between the Raga Bhakti and Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Now, basically, what is there in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti? There we have to follow our spiritual master, we have to follow the scriptures. Now, in Raga Bhakti, one has to follow a permanent resident of Vrindavana, and this bhakti comes spontaneously, automatically in the heart of the devotee. That is the only difference between Raga Bhakti, that is Raganuga Bhakti, and Sadhana Bhakti. Now, what is happening here? The upper side of these two leaves of Sadhana Bhakti, they are utterly soft, they are smooth, they are beautiful, and the undersides are very, very rough. Now, similarly, there are two types of sadhana bhakti. One is raga bhakti, which is rooted in the specific type of greed and which is very, very soft and beautiful. And the other is Vaidhi bhakti, which is rooted in the disciplinary injunction of the scriptures and the sadhus. And that's why it is said that it is somewhat rough. Now, the purport is that sadhana bhakti has the two qualities. Kleshagni, that means it dispels misery, and subhada. Subhada means it dispels, it bestows all auspiciousness. Now here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wants to mention that rendering of this subject of very simple and readily understandable process has presented an example. Now, since it is an established fact that the quality and the possessor of the quality are not separate from one another, we have to understand that here the author is saying that sadhana bhakti has two aspects, raga bhakti and vaidhi bhakti, as well as their shared qualities of Klesagni and Subhada. Now the important is that the two modes they govern sadhana bhakti. The first is greed. Now seeing the qualities of bhakti, her softness and charm, her tenderness, her self-manifesting nature, like this, there are so many qualities, awakens in the heart of the devotee a spontaneous greed for bhakti and the desire to attain bhakti. Now, sadhana bhakti is impelled by such natural greed is called raganuga bhakti. That is why it is stated that a king named Raga has its jurisdiction over that soft aspect of bhakti. Now, to understand this, in other words, Raga Bhakti or Prema Bhakti governs Raganuga Bhakti at every stage. Because of this Prema, the devotees, they establish their different relationships with with Krishna only, and they accept the Lord as their dearly beloved, their life and soul, their son, their friend, their spiritual master, their confidant, and their worshipable deity. Now, toward this aspect, Lord Kapil Deva, he speaks to his mother Devahuti in Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto. He is saying that, O mother, for devotees who are granted such a spiritual fortune, there is no question of their losing that fortune, nor can the vigilant movements of the cycle of birth, the cycle of time can destroy it. Now, this is because I am as dear to such devotees as their very self, and as an object of affection like a son, as object of trust like a friend, or like a preceptor as a benefactor, and as their worshipable Lord. Now, thus, in the practice of Raganuga Bhakti, a softness exists due to the presence of pure relationship, and like the soft upper section of the leaves. It shines resplendently in a superior position. Now, in other words, Raganuga Bhakti always remains in a position of excellence when compared to Sadhana Bhakti. Now, the other impetus for a sadhaka or a devotee is to engage in Sadhana Bhakti out of fear born from the regulations of the scriptures and the directions given by the spiritual master or the various senior Vaishnavas. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam declares that without rendering devotional, loving devotion to Krishna, the living entity can never cross the vast ocean of repeated birth and death, because the root cause of this his material existence, which is comprised of birth and death, is the bondage, and that's why he is in illusion under Maya. And Bhagavad Bhakti is the only means to break this. That's why in the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, what is said? Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvara Hari Srotabhya Kirtitabhya Smartabhya Chetabhyam. Now he is saying, O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from these miseries must hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of Godhead, which is the super soul, who is the controller, who is the savior of all miseries. Now, the type of sadhana bhakti practiced as a result of hearing such scriptural statements is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Now, the devotees, that is, who are practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, they engage in various limbs of bhakti, not out of affection for Bhagavan, for Lord Krishna, but in an attempt to end their suffering. There is an underlying reason for them, and that is a selfish reason. And for this reason, Vaidhi Bhakti is said to be rough and coarse and not rooted in an intimate, pure relationship of attachment to the Lord. It is likened to the rough underside of a leaf. Now, this indicates that compared with Raganuga Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti is inferior. Now, in the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, the rules and regulations of the scriptures, they are predominant. And this type of sadhana bhakti is therefore described bhakti and the rules and regulations of the scriptures, and this is described as being under the jurisdiction under some regulation. Now both sides of the leaves have similar properties. It is not that the leaves soft upper surface has certain properties and the lower rougher surface has got other properties. Now, similarly, the nature of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and the nature of Raganuga Bhakti is almost the same. Both are equally effective in removing sorrows and granting auspiciousness. That's why Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says, Bhakti is sometimes inspired by greed and sometimes impelled by the dictates of the scriptures. And devotion that is not incited by greed, but by the mandate of scriptures, that is known as Vaidhi Bhakti. That's why it is said that both are the same. And in his commentary to this verse, Jiva Goswami, he says that the word raga means bhajana, endowed with deep attachment or ruchi. And bhajana is not impelled by raga, it's called Vaidhi Bhakti. And bhajana, which is impelled by raga, that is known as Raganuga Bhakti. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that greed that arises in the performance of bhajana upon beholding the deity of Krishna or hearing the sweet narrations of Krishna's pastimes, they are related in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is raga. And bhakti is not instigated by such greed, but rather impelled by the injunction of the scriptures. It is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And Sukadeva Goswami said to Parikshit Maharaj, the same verse which I said, that in order to become liberated from the clutches of the fearsome death, that is extremely terrifying, hellish punishment brought by excessive attachment to the body, to the things which are related to the body and to worldly relationships. And in order to attain the supreme happiness, it is imperative for the jiva to utter the holy name of Hari. He should take the name of the Supreme Lord. And in the inner surface of both the leaves on the vine of devotion, it's soft, shine, and beautiful. And the inner side has thus been compared to Raga Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti. And the devotion of the associates of Braja, they are called Ragatmika Bhaktas. And devotion performed under the guidance of these Ragatmika Bhaktas, which is perfected by the associate, is called Raganuga Bhakti. Now, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, he says that a deep spontaneous obsession or an unrelenting yearning for one's chosen worshipable deity, that is called raga. And devotion imbued with this loving mood is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Now, this Ragatmika Bhakti is found in its full manifest in the Brajavasis or the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavana. And devotion performed in the wake of or guided by Ragatmika Bhaktas is Raganuga Bhakti. And that devotion, the very essence of which is constituted of eternal attachment within the self, is known as Ragatmika Bhakti. And this is preeminently and splendidly manifest in the residents of Braja. Now, devotion that follows this Ragatmika Bhakti is known as Raganuga Bhakti. Now, just as the eyes and the other senses are naturally drawn to the beauty and the other sense objects without the need for any separate inducement, the devotees, they see these things in Krishna in a natural way. And this is called Raga. And there are various varieties of Raga, such as Santa, that is neutrality, Dasya, that is servitude, Sakhya, that is friendship, Vatsalya, that is parental affection, Madhurya, that is amorous love, like this. And the Lord says that for my devotees, I am their beloved, their very own self, their son, their friend, their master, everything. So this has to be kept in mind. And thus, here what we learned, the greed is the principal impetus in Raga Bhajana. And in this special Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Acharyas, they have taught us this thing, and this is very, very important. And another point to deliberate upon this, the vast difference between the Raga Bhakti and that of devotion rooted in scriptural dictates, there is a little difference in how their qualities of destroying suffering and granting auspiciousness they awaken. We'll go to the next slide. Now, we'll speak of the 5 types of kleshas. The kleshas, there are 5 types. One is ignorance or avidya. The other is false ego or asmita. The third is passion or attachment to the material things, raga. Then the fourth is dvesa or hatred. And fifth is abhinivesa or the absorption in worldly objects. Now here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is describing the 2 qualities of sadhana bhakti, Kleshagni and Subhada. It has already been explained that both qualities are present in Raga Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti. But in what context? What is the meaning of Klesha and what is Subhada? This we will learn here. Now in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Maharshi Patanjali has written that the ignorance, false ego, attachment to enjoyment, aversion to suffering, and material absorption are 5 different types of klesha or misery. And being situated in the heart, they cause one to engage in either action, that is karma, or inaction, akarma. As a result, one attains one's destiny, and the fruits of piety and impiety, which are happiness or distress respectively, and these 5 types of misery are described like this. Now, what is avidya? Avidya is a state of consciousness in which one mistakes temporary objects as eternal, and mistakes that which is impure as pure, mistakes unhappiness as happiness, and identifies the self with the matter, and this is known as avidya or ignorance. Now, avidya is at work when one considers that impermanent things such as one's body, one's property, one's possession, and one's relations, they are all permanent. And when one considers the impure physical body comprised of blood, flesh, fat, bones, stool, and urine to be pure and enjoyable, then one thinks that the trivial mundane pleasures, they constitute happiness, which is not correct. And what is asmita? Asmita means to wrongly assume that the cognitive power of visual perception, that is darshana shakti, is completely identical with the inherent power to see the Supreme Lord. And this is known as asmita. In other words, asmita is the ego or delusion, thinking in terms of I and mine. Then the third thing, raga. Raga means desire or attachment to the means by which one procures pleasures and removes distress. This is known as raga. In other words, the yearning for more, even after obtaining one's desired object, is called raga. And dvesa means what? Aversion or hatred for the cause of distress, that is known as dvesa. And what is abhinivesa? Abhinivesa is to be strongly attached to one's body due to its being the basis of attaining worldly pleasures, and to be terrified by death is called abhinivesa. And now these things also we'll see in tomorrow's class, that is lesson 9. So with this, I finish today's class. And now I'll invite everybody for their comments or their question. If you have any comments or questions, then we'll discuss. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Wonderful session, Prabhu. We learned a lot of new things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Actually, all this 9, 10, and thereafter 11 to 18, they are very, very important. And if we can understand them, then we'll understand why we are not progressing on this path of bhakti. Like the other day also, devotees were saying we have been practicing this bhakti for so many years, but why we are not progressing as we should have been? All these reasons will understand once we go through all these lessons, and this is very, very important. That's why one should be a little more careful in listening and understanding what is being said. Any other question or comments?
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
What is the difference between Raganuga Bhakti and Ragatmika Bhakti? That I don't understand.
Okay. The Raganuga Bhakti means anybody who is following the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Ragatmika Bhaktas are what? They are the original Brajavasis. And for them, they are not practicing this Vaidhi Bhakti. That means they are not doing chanting 16 rounds, 32 rounds. They are not doing. They are not doing this like we do the Ekadasi Brata. The gopis, they were not doing that. They were doing what was coming in their heart, and their heart was totally for Krishna, and they knew nothing but Krishna. Their own pleasures, own happiness, they never knew. They never cared for. They are the bhaktas. That means, suppose you have got a tendency to follow Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda Mata, then when you reach that stage, you will be known as Raganuga Bhakta. The Ragatmika Bhaktas, they are the original Brajavasis. We cannot be compared with them. That means we have to follow them. But that will come at a later stage, and when we develop in this sadhana bhakti. That means what is given in the scriptures, what is being told to us by our Guru Maharaj, what is being told by the senior Vaishnavas, we have to follow them, and then we'll reach that stage. That means we are in class 1, we have to get promoted to the higher and higher classes. Then at the end, we'll reach that Raganuga stage, not from the very beginning. One will say, I will follow Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda Mata or Subala and Arjuna and like this. That cannot happen. We have to reach that stage, and for that stage, we have to cleanse our heart. Ketodarpana marjanam. We have to cleanse our heart, and that can be done only by chanting. Chanting means Sravana Kirtana. Because we have got so many anarthas we will be hearing from lessons 11 onwards about in very great detail how we are involved in these anarthas, and that is causing havoc in our lives. That we will learn. So this is what is the reason we have to remember. That means Raganuga, Ragatmika Bhakti, they are different, and Vaidhi Bhakti, it is different.
Yes, Prabhuji.
I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji. This is the Radha
Hare
Vinod.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
My camera for some reason is not working, Prabhuji. I'll try to get it fixed. I don't know what happened today. But Prabhuji, as I understand, you mentioned, Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. In both the cases, the Kleshagni and Shubhda takes place. Is that correct, Prabhuji? In both
Yes,
the...
in both these Kleshagni and Subhada, they will arise. That means klesha, all these types of the kleshas, they will go away. And Subhada, what is the meaning? In more detail, we'll learn tomorrow. All these things, they will happen in both Raganuga Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti. And like you will see that some devotees, they do not have to follow this Vaidhi Bhakti, then come to the Raganuga stage. Because what actually is happening, we are continuing our life. Now, where we had left our last life, we are beginning here. Like if somebody is in that stage, he can also start from Raganuga Bhakti. But that will come automatically, and that will be indicated by the Guru Maharaj only, because we do not have any knowledge about that. Like all of us, they have got our spiritual forms also, but we do not know. If you remember the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana, especially Raghunath Das Goswami, in his various books, what he describes something as he is seeing in the spiritual form, then he comes back to his this material form also. That means, as Rupa Goswami has also described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, outwardly we have to behave like we are in the material form, and in the mind we have to serve the Lord. But that is a much higher stage. That will come much later. For the time being, we have to do Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And once we come to that stage, then Raganuga Bhakti will come. And we are learning these differences, these theories. But please remember that the effects, the outcome, they are the same. That is what is being said. Though one is soft, one path is soft, the Raganuga Bhakti, the other path is rough or tough. And that is the Vaidhi Bhakti. So that is what is the meaning we said, Prabhuji.
But Prabhuji, as we understand, it's the emphasis is for us. We should not, as you also mentioned that, we should always follow the Vaidhi Bhakti, right? We should not think in that Raganuga. Maybe eventually in some time in the future it may arise in some. But for like me, I look at that Vaidhi Bhakti is the only way for us as we are entering into our devotional service, Prabhuji. Correct?
Okay, Prabhuji, what actually is happening, if somebody says, I will follow Raganuga Bhakti, I will follow what Nanda Maharaj is. Nanda Maharaj was loving Krishna. I will try to follow that. But that feeling will not come automatically in us because we have not reached that stage. When we reach that stage, it will come very automatically and naturally in our heart. Once we progress in devotional service. So that is how, that is the reason we should not try to work it out or imagine it artificially. It should come naturally. And because we have not reached that stage, it is not coming. But yes, we have got an ambition. Actually, at this stage, we do not know whether we are in Sakhya or whether we are in Vatsalya or we are in whatever form out of these 5, we do not know because we have not reached that stage and our knowledge is also very limited. But as we know the spiritual master, he knows everything. His body, as we learned, he has got a spiritual body and he is the representative of Krishna. Krishna has sent him specifically for each one of us and he knows where we are and he is going to guide us. And if we are not able to complete this thing in this birth, then in the next birth we will start from where we left. That means we should not try to do anything artificially. It will come naturally in due course of time. But yes, we should know this is the process, this is how it happens. This is what is happening now. We should never try to practice because it will not come automatically. And there are so many thoughts will come which we are not used to and will not be successful in that. That's why we should do the barest minimum, that is the chanting, as much as possible, not only 16 rounds, but much more than that. Then Shravana Kirtana, always Shravana Kirtana, and that is very, very important. If we do just Shravana Kirtana, and that is going to lead us to our destination. And there is no doubt about it. This we should believe and we should practice this. I hope now I have answered the question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question or any other comment?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much for a wonderful class. Prabhuji, मैं जो 5 types of क्लेशा जो है उसमें 3 number और 5 number में मुझे समझ में नहीं आया है प्रभुजी. Kindly elaborate more.
Okay, we'll discuss them tomorrow also. All these classes, and then we'll understand. Yes. At the end also, anytime you can ask anything, but this will be discussing more. That's why the understanding will come slightly later. But what is being said, that all these classes, they will go away immediately when we come into this path. That is what is being said. Any other question or comment?
और प्रभु जी वैदिक साधना भक्ति करते करते स्लोली हम जितना भी स्ट्रिक्टली हम फॉलो करेंगे तो फिर बाद में हम रागानुगा भक्त बन सकते हैं ना?
Yes, बिल्कुल बन सकते हैं.
अच्छा.
Because what is actually Raganuga Bhakti is what? That love, what we are saying, loving devotional service to Krishna or the divine couple Radha and Krishna, it should come automatically, it should sprout automatically in our heart. Now that is not coming. Even you read all these bhajans of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he also says that. But out of humility, he is saying he was a very, very great devotee. That means in the normal devotee, that will not come automatically. But for a Raganuga Bhakta, it will come automatically. Automatically, he will start loving Radha and Krishna. That is not coming in our mind. That's why we have to go through these rules and regulations. And once we keep on following these rules and regulations, the orders of the spiritual master and all that, then after some time it will come automatically. Like it is something like, I'll give the example of the army only. Now, like a civilian, he goes to he joins an army establishment. First, he is given training. He doesn't know how to walk in the military way. He is given the training and the process and everything. And after the training, it automatically comes to him. He cannot do something else like this. Here, we have to first do things as per the rules. And that will then this love for Godhead will sprout automatically. But please remember, for that to come, many other things also have to happen. Like the anarthas, they are the biggest obstacles in our path of devotion. For that, as I said, we'll be learning from lessons 11 to 18. And all these things, they have to go. And our heart has to become very, very pure, so that we'll have the love of Godhead without any problem. That stage has not come. We are still in the anartha nivrutti stage. We have got so many anarthas which have piled up from last millions and billions of births. But because we have come into this bhakti process, they are going away little by little, and after some time, certainly they will go away fully. So that is what is the answer to your question, Mataji. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Dandavat Pranam.
If we do not have any other question or any comments, then we'll go for the Singha prayers and conclude today's class. and we'll start in the tomorrow morning on the lesson 9. We'll sing this sing a prayers. Raksha Mata ji.
Okay, Prabhuji. Ha, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladaladaine. Praladaladaine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankan khalaye. Shilatankan khalaye. Ito Narsimha Karato Narsimha. Ito Narsimha Karato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madhur Sharanam Pravate. Tava Kara Kamalavare Rakha. Adbhuta Shringar Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Vringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Ho Narsimha Dev. Narsimha Dev. Narsimha Dev. Jai Ho Narsimha Dev. Jai Ho Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj. Jai Ho Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev. 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. श्री प्रभुपाद की जय हो. श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की जय हो. भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय हो. चारु प्रभु जी की जय हो. शरद प्रभु जी की जय हो. Praying for the speedy recovery of the Charu Prabhuji. Get well soon, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandat Pranam. Thank you.
Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Mataji. So what we'll be meeting tomorrow. I'll request all of you, please pray for Charu Prabhuji. He should be totally fit. And he should be joining us. I don't know how he'll be joining the class tomorrow or not. But he is all right. He would come from the hospital or tonight and his afternoon only. Hare Krishna. Then we'll meet tomorrow morning Indian time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Dandat
Krishna.
Pranam.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandat Pranam.